Welcome, this is Matt from Jaggers Brewing Co. So today's project is going to be Hothead Kveik Farmhouse, grain to glass. So this particular beer is a lot like some of the other beers that we've brewed around here, especially in the Farmhouse 1 comparison, and pretty similar to the Hell Saison beer that we brewed. So what we did was we started by getting our water profile right. We went with the yellow dry profile that you can find on BeerSmith. The grain bill consisted of 70.1% Belgian Pilsner, 19.7% Rye Malt, and then 10.3% Torrified Wheat. So for this beer, we went for 1 ounce of East Kent Goldings at 60 minutes, and then 1 ounce of Saaz at the last 5 minutes of the boil. As is the normal operating procedure around here, we went ahead and added 1 Whirlfloc tablet for the 15-minute boil addition, and then half a teaspoon of yeast nutrient at 10 minutes. So the thing that makes this beer pretty special is, first off, we used Hothead Kveik. I've used Kveik quite a few times around here. Being in Texas, sometimes it's pretty hard for temperature control, or you just kind of want to knock something out fairly quickly where you don't have to worry about temperature control. So once I started learning more and more about Kveik, I kept giving it more and more shots, and I'm a fan. It definitely belongs in certain styles and not in other ones. This is one that I think that it really truly belongs in, being like that Saison farmhouse style of beer. I'm calling this a farmhouse, whatever that means. Basically what we did was, after the boil, no chilled, let it come down naturally to 95 degrees. At that point, what I did was I took the yeast, and it was a little bit older packet. It was about a month or so after its expiration date. One being Kveik, and then two, kind of thinking that sometimes some of those expiration dates are more suggestions and not hardcore rules. I decided to take that packet and I put it in a mason jar, kept it in the refrigerator till I was ready to pitch it. And on pitching day, I went ahead and took that bag. I kind of rinsed out the yeast that was in there, and then I pitched that, and then I used 4 teaspoons worth of Kveik. I normally only do 2. I underpitch it, and I normally run it hot. And the way that I'm able to do that is I have an insulated bag, a lot like lunch keg materials. It's supposed to be big enough to be able to fit a keg in. I just use it for my fermenters when I'm using Kveik, or when I'm doing kettle sours. I'll put my kettle in there. So I have an anvil temp controller. I run that probe into a glass jar full of water and keep it right next to the fermenter or the kettle at that point. And then what I do is I set my temp controller at 93, 95, whatever I'm trying to ferment at or kettle sour at. And so I have a splitter plug, and then I just run 2 heating pads on there. Sometimes if you don't catch it right and you're not really paying attention, it takes a little bit for that bag or that whole system to kind of come up to the temperature that you need it to. I normally place a pad on the very bottom and put my fermenter or my kettle on there, and then the second one I put right up against the side of it, kind of 180 away from the glass jar, so that way maybe that there's not any kind of differential temperature readings there, that it's true and steady. So I let that ferment at 95 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 week. Generally, from me testing the Kveik strains that I've played around with, They're typically done about 3 days. I like to give them a week in there, and then what I do is I go ahead and I pull it out of that bag. I let it sit at room temperature for another week in case there's any cleanup that it needs to do. At that point in time, from my experiences, the yeast has had a lot of time to reproduce, so there's a lot of yeast culture still left in that fermenter to do what it needs to do. At that point, so now we're 2 weeks into fermentation, go ahead, check the gravities, make sure that it's ready and safe enough to bottle, and then from that point, go ahead and bottle. Now, bottling with Hothead Kveik has become a challenge for me. I have experienced bottle bombs with Hothead Kveik. I don't understand what it is. I guess it just sees some sugar and it is ready to rock and roll at that point in time. I've used Hornadal, I've used Voss, I've used a couple other strains without any kind of issue whatsoever. Having used the Hothead Kveik probably 3, 4, maybe 5 times now. I think this is probably about the 5th time or so that I've used it. I've had bottle bombs before. They slowly but surely, each batch I've used it, I've gotten less and less. I backed this whole batch up like way down. I think I used maybe 3 ounces of cane sugar for this, just to help prevent that, and I still lost 3 or 4 bottles in here. So after this whole experiment with Hothead, I'm at the point to where once my kegerators finally finish being built out and revamped, Hothead is going to be a kegging only beer. So speaking of this beer, let's take a look. Now this thing is probably going to be a little bit overcarbed because Hothead do what it want to do. And like I said, that's like with 3 ounces of cane sugar there. So that's not very much. You know, I've done suggested carbonation at 3.6 before on other beers, and they've come out pretty flat. Now, in my unpreparedness, I did not grab another glass, so let me go do that and cut to that real quick. Wow, put this there for a moment. So as you can see, this thing is a really clean and clear beer. And my experiences so far with the Hothead Kveik, I've put it in a blonde ale before just to play around with it, and the phenolics that I get off of it are pretty crazy, and I thought that they would blend very well in the Saaz Farmhouse style of beer. You know, in the blonde, I mean, it just tasted very like clove and peppery and things like that. I wouldn't say necessarily like the typical like sour type Saison or farmhouse or anything like that, but I think it's not necessarily outside of the realm of some of like what some of the Bretts can throw at beer. But coming in, you smell some of the clove, some of the phenolics of like pepper. So this thing smells pretty good. Definitely pick up on some of the cloves and the pepper. kind of get a little bit of like citrus notes on it, like orange. Smells amazing. Like, this definitely smells more complicated than like the blonde ale that I used it in. Go ahead and get this here sorted. As you can see, a nice, beautiful, clear looking beer, straw in color, heavily carbonated. Thanks a lot, Kveik. Hothead. Yes. Oh yes. This thing has been a favorite of mine. This thing's been in the bottle for probably about 3 months now, and I've kind of taste tested it a little bit here and there. This tastes just like it does in a blonde ale, but better even. It has, in my opinion, a lot of phenolic stuff going on, like the pepper. It's got, you know, the cloves. I feel like I can taste a little bit of the rye going on in here. This thing is pretty good. If you like kind of like those like Belgian or the Saazons and stuff like that kind of push more of the phenolics in this, I think that you'll enjoy it. Everything that I've seen about this yeast, though, everybody says that they don't pick up on any phenolics on it, but I don't think that that's necessarily true. Kind of almost get a little bit of a creaminess on the back end there. Kind of hard for me to describe. I almost want to say like a banana vanilla kind of milkshake situation there, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. This thing though, it's really good. So like I said, you know, once I can get away from exclusively bottle conditioning, beers, I think that this would be a very good candidate to have on tap. I know not everybody's gonna like this particular beer. The couple times though that I've shared it through the couple batches that I've brewed before, doing it more or less the same way, everybody really enjoys it. I think it's a pretty good beer. As far as a farmhouse goes at this point though, I think I still kind of prefer that Lithuanian farmhouse that we did in the first video, or the Saazonstein. Those were kind of a little bit better beers in my opinion than this particular one, but this one's pretty good. I would probably rotate this one out between those, or maybe even have those and bottles and this one on tap, just because those other ones were really good. If I remember right, I think the Saazonstein was a little bit overcarbed too, same as this one. This one is. This one's enough to kind of make me belch a little bit after drinking one though. So my only regret at this point, like I said, for this particular brew honestly would be that I had to bottle condition it. I don't think that I would necessarily change anything up on this particular one. it would maybe be interesting to kind of approach it with maybe the raw ale way that I did that one. Maybe substitute this for the Voss that I used. The Voss that I used was a little old as well. This one was a little bit fresher than the Voss, and so maybe that's why I struggled a little bit more with the Voss and not this one so much. But the Voss was really good too. So if you kind of want more of a phenolic type of Kveik yeast to turn around something pretty quickly, maybe give this one a shot. Let me know if you've run into any problems with the Hothead Kveik. It seems to be that maybe I'm the only one that I've ever talked about that's struggled with it, and I don't think that I'm doing anything wrong with it. You know, I mean, I've used Harnadol and a few of the other ones and never have had a problem. And this one is the only beer that I've ever had bottle bombs with, or regularly have had bottle bombs with every time that I've used it. So it's kind of baffling, especially when backing down on the carbonation level with the cane sugar. So thanks for stopping in. I can't wait to show you guys what we got going on next. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that really helps. It's kind of been fun so far to see how much ground that we've gained thus far. Thanks for coming along on the ride with me. We really appreciate it. Bye. Howdy y'all, welcome back. This is Matt from Jackers Brewing Co. You know, back in the 1800s, when we had these solo stoves, we were chasing all the buffalo during Manifest Destiny. Believe it or not, that one got away from me because I rambled.